Hello, everyone. I all hope you had a very, very wonderful, blessed weekend and a very blessed weekend and a very, very good morning indeed, guys. As you can see, guys, it is extremely super, very much hot indeed. As you guys can actually see yourself, the weather is quietly beautiful. It's very, very sky clear and beautiful and all of that as well. But despite that, guys, I'm superly grateful for your support in watching and in viewing my episodes. It gratefully, completely means a lot to me. From shorts and from long videos, from both sides, I'm superly grateful for you guys' support, and may God bless you as well so much. On today's episode, we're to speak about Hank Starwood, who is a Four Nation hunter and a superhero and a new leader of the New Alliance, which was formed many, many centuries ago by the previous and original Lord of Magic within the ancient times. But its legacy kept on going on and on, passed out by the descendants of the Four Nation Hunter families in order to keep it going. Now, Hank Starwood is the new leader of the new alliance of the Four Nation Hunter families with a goal and a mission to protect the sacred world and the sacred universe and planet Earth and humanity from the forces of evil that come from the sacred world and from the known universe and from the rest of sacred existence by any means necessary. So let's get to it. In Hank Starwood's early life, he was quietly raised by his parents of the Starwood Foundation Hunter family, who have exactly managed to who have exactly managed to give him so much credibility and so much abilities in order to protecting his family's name and the legacy behind it. In doing so, Hank Starwood and Sam Starwood and Boggle Smith worked together as brothers and sisters in order to protect their family name, in order to preserve and protect their family name and legacy of the Starwood family, which has been going on, which has been known as a superhero for Nation Hunter family that's been destined with the purpose of protecting the sacred world and the rest of the sacred universe from the forces of evil. Unknowns to Hank Starwood and to Sam Starwood and to Vogel Smith, that their parents were former members of the Shadow Force, an evil group of powerful Four-Nation hunters who wanted to complete the goal of annihilation, who wanted to complete the goal of annihilation by the original Lord of Magic, to annihilate the supernaturals, aliens, and superhumans in the process, as well as the Four Nation Hunters, which the Shadow Force was formed by an evil and powerful, deadly, terrifying by an evil, powerful, deadly, terrifying, rogue, evil Four-Nation hunter known as Valak Hellfire, who was a subordinate of the original Lord of Magic and shared his goal to cleansing and purifying the sacred world and the rest of sacred existence from the supernaturals, aliens, and superhumans, and by the Four-Nation hunters, by exterminating them and by wiping them out in the process. Over time, Hank Starwood began training harder and becoming the current leader of the institute and becoming the current leader of the institute of the Four Nation Hunters, where he was able to lead them with great authority. And as you view his Four Nation Hunter brothers and members as his sisters and members of his family as well. Excuse me, and members of his family as well. Despite this, Vogelsmith was able to bring in a new Four-Nation hunter known as Ivy Ferris Hellfire, which she thought was connected to her long lost father known as Valak Hellfire. Hank Starwood was very, very quietly skeptical of Ivy Ferris Hellfire, and discovered that she's a descendant of the Hellfire family and as well of the Ferris family, which in other words makes her a direct descendant of Universal Man's family and of Universal Woman's family as well in the process. Despite this, Hank Starwood did not exactly trust Ivy Ferris Hellfire at all, not even completely. Despite that, he began testing her skills and her powers and abilities throughout the Institute of the Training, while they both exactly understood that they share the same goal in protecting the sacred world and the rest of mankind from the greatest threat that humanity is facing, known as Valak Hellfire, and a rogue evil group of Four Nation hunters known as the Shadow Force, with the goal to annihilate and exterminate the supernaturals, aliens, and superhumans in the process. And Hank began to understand that Ivy Ferris Hellfire was indeed one of them, and that he was willing to do the exact same thing as she was willing to do to protect and serve humanity and the sacred world and the rest of sacred existence. By any means necessary. Over the following years, Hank Starwood began falling in love with a powerful warlock known as Bayao, who was a very powerful and a very greater individual throughout the sacred world, which together they discover they can make a powerful difference to both of the worlds of the supernaturals and of the four nation hunters by making sure that the entire world can able to coexist all together in order to fix the rift that was quietly destroyed many centuries ago by the original and current Lord of Magic, who was currently willing to wipe out and exterminate the supernaturals, aliens, and superhumans in the process. Despite this, Hank Starwood completely trusted Bayao, and he decided that it's best that they use the relationship and the love over together than in order to make a positive difference to the sacred world and to the rest of sacred existence. And by stopping the greatest threats that pose to humans, by stopping a greater threat that pose a greater that by stopping a greater threat that pose a greater significant threat to the human world and to the sacred world by any by at all by any means necessary and at all cost as well. On the 10th of January, Hank Starwood was quietly in the institute as he discovered that his parents were former members of the Shadow Force, and he was quietly not very much happy about the truth at all. That discovering that this could exactly shift everything else that was been happening throughout the sacred world and throughout the sacred universe, meaning that they were quietly in league with the most powerful foe for many years, and that they still could be possibly in league with the same enemy as well. On the 12th of January, Hank Starwood and the rest of his Four Nation Hunter brothers battled fought a group of monsters who were quietly in a form of humans, who were quietly in human form, who were quietly in human form, able to shapeshift themselves in human form, which they were able to fight and vanquish back to the dark dimension. Gladly, they remained victorious, and they gladly succeeded as well. On the 15th of January, Hank and Bayao exactly toasted to their new relationship and also to their new love and also to the new success of their goals in trying to reunite the supernatural community and the alien community and the superhuman community with the Four Nation Hunter community in order for the worlds to learn to coexist together as they did many centuries ago, and as well during in ancient times as well. On the 19th of January, Smith exactly told Hank Starwood that he's very impressed of the leader he has become of the Four Nation Hunters and that he has done a very good, daring job. But they still have to take out one of their greatest enemy, known as Valak Hellfire, who's on a destructive mission to exterminate all of them and wiping them out clean. And that has to stop. And Hank Starwood completely agreed with Vogel that they have to work together and as well trust each other as well on their missions and on their respective missions and goals by any means necessary as well. On the 22 on the actual 22 of January, founder and leader of the Four Nation Hunters and the founder and leader of the United Heroes began announcing the universal heroes to the Four Nation Hunters within their headquarters, which is an institute of Four Nation Hunters, where they can able to all exactly meet each other. Universal Man was very quietly grateful that he met the greatest legends and the great stories and myth about the Four Nation Hunters, which was exactly told about, and he gladly shook hands with Hank Starwood, stated to him that the universal heroes are hereby allies with the Four Nation Hunters. Hank Starwood began telling Grayson that the Four Nation Hunters will now be known as the New Alliance. And Grayson Ferris Unity told him that the Universal Heroes are the members of the New Alliance and that they'll be able to work together to restoring peace, balance, and harmony to the sacred world and to the sacred universe and to humanity and to planet Earth as well. If they can put their resources all together to saving the sacred world and planet Earth and humanity all in one, they can achieve their common goals and their respective goals and their common interest all together. And Hank Starwood began to agree that Grayson Ferris Unity, the new universal man, is officially a member of the new alliance, and that he can also become the leader as well. Grayson Ferris Unity decided it's best that he remains as his left-hand man of the new alliance, rather to become the new leader. That Hank Starwood is the leader meant to lead the new alliance and the Four Nation Hunters. The Universal Heroes will become members of the new alliance, and they'll support the Four Nation Hunters whenever way they can, in every possibility as they can. And Hank Starwood agreed to Grayson Ferris Unity that the Four Nation Hunters will support the Intergalactic Coalition and as well as the Universal Heroes with a common and respective goals to restoring sacred peace and balance to the sacred world and to the rest of humanity in the process as well. On the 25th of January, news spread like wildfires as rumors about the death of the original Lord of Magic, who was quietly killed and faced his demise by the Universal Heroes and by the prophesied child known as the new Universal Man, as Grayson Ferris Unity, which created a power vacuum shift within the Shadow Empire on the 1st of February as well. On the 26th of January, the Four Nation Hunters decided that it's best for them to continue their mission and their goals in order to taking down the Shadow Force before they can complete their ultimate goal of soul destruction in wiping out and annihilating the supernaturals and the aliens and the superhumans by any means necessary. Hank Starwood told the Four Nation Hunters that it's their job and purpose and mission to protecting humanity, the supernatural community and the superhuman community and the alien community from all threats alike, from the superhumans to the warlocks, from the superhumans to the supernaturals, aliens, Four Nation Hunters, monsters, creatures, dark druids, dark powerful magic users, and any powerful evil warlock or warlord who dare pose a threat to sacred peace must be stopped at all costs. And that is their interest and common goal, to restoring sacred peace and balance to the sacred world and to the rest of sacred existence. And they all agreed to that as well. On the 4th of February, the Four Nation Hunters continued battling an army of monsters that appeared from the dark dimension, which they completely able to vanquish altogether, and they were able to remain victorious as well. On the 10th of February, Hank Starwood and Baal battled a powerful dark monster, which it has the ability of using dark magic, as a camouflaging creature that can camouflage in anywhere, which a warlock and a Four Nation Hunter banded together and vanquished the most powerful monster that ever came from the dark dimension, altogether due to their abilities and to their intervention by saving lives in the rest of the planet as well. On the 13th of February, Hank Starwood and the rest of the members of the new alliance met up with the Universal Heroes, as Universal Man told the members of the alliance that he and the Universal Heroes will be going off mission across space in order to stop a dangerous threat from wreaking havoc and creating chaos upon its wake, and they'll be gone for several months or several years, which is why the new alliance has to step in its place to make sure that there's peace and order and balance to the sacred world and to the rest of sacred existence. Hank Starwood reassured Grayson Ferris Unity that the new alliance and the Four Nation Hunters will do just about that to make sure that there's peace and balance and harmony towards the supernatural community and the Four Nation Hunters and the aliens and the superhumans and the rest of sacred existence and the known worlds and the known universe as well. They gladly shook hands with each other and began departing ways after that. On the 15th of February, another power vacuum was created due to the disappearance of the Universal Heroes. This time, the Shadow Empire warlords and commanders have formed their own factions in order to taking control of the Shadow Empire. By doing so exactly, it allowed an opportunity, it paved a way for a new opportunity for a new powerful ancient threat known as the new Lord of Magic to rise and frequently working from the shadows with his new ancient secret society known as the Order of Power, which began to be reassembled, and he started to begin to reforming his own new shadow empire from the shadows. This caused mass panic towards the known magical worlds and the rest of the known worlds of the sacred universe and of the known universe and throughout the galaxy as well, and throughout the galaxy and throughout the sacred world. Despite of this, the Shadow Empire warlords and others saw allegiances to the new ruler magic, while the others saw allegiances to themselves, while the others saw allegiances to the other ancient groups of evil supervillains, and the others pledged their loyalty and their leadership to the Dark Order and to Red Bolt, who's the current leader of the Shadow Empire, of the original Shadow Empire as well. On the 17th of February, the Four Nation Hunters journeyed into the alien world, into another alien world, in order to save it from a ravaging attack, in order to saving it from a ravaging attack from the Shadow Empire battle cruiser, which another Shadow Empire was on a warpath in order to destroy the alien magical world that is filled with warlocks and witches and fairies, all coexisting together with aliens and very, very beautiful creatures. The Four Nation Hunters fought against the Shadow Empire warlords, armies, and forces, and were able to take them down. And despite that, Hunk Starwood and the other warlocks felt victorious as they managed to destroy the battle cruiser that was completely in the way. Despite this, the supernaturals of the aliens, warlocks, and the aliens and warlocks and fairies and witches were very thankful and very grateful that the new alliance stepped in. Hunk Starwood reassured them that the Four Nation Hunters' mission and purpose and job is to restoring peace and balance and harmony and restoration towards the sacred world and towards the sacred universe. The inhabitants reassured Hunk Starwood, who is the leader of the new alliance, telling him that they'll remain allies of the Intergalactic Coalition and allies of the Universal Heroes, which they'll do the utmost of they can to supporting their cause and the organization's mission and respective goals to restoring peace and balance to the sacred world. Hunk Starwood shook hands with the inhabitants and stated that he was very successfully pleased that the inhabitants have managed to successfully decide to join forces with the Four Nation Hunters once and for all as well. On the 29th of February, Hunk Starwood completely returned to the Institute and told the Four Nation Hunters that their job was quite well done, but there's so much work for them to completely able to do, that the monsters of the dark dimension are growing completely aggressive and very much impatient, and are willing to wipe out all of humanity, meaning they have to use every bit of resources in order to stopping these dangerous threats and the Shadow Empire warlords as well. On the 6th of March, Sam Starwood completely returned from her off-duty mission in order to tell Hunk Starwood that new threats and new forces of evil are emerging from the sacred world and from the rest of sacred existence, which are beginning to seize power and mass control of the power vacuum that has completely consumed the Shadow Empire and the rest of his forces. Hunk Starwood exactly told Sam Starwood that the Alliance and the Universal Heroes are doing everything else they can in their power to restoring peace and balance to the sacred world, and they're willing to do whatever it takes to do that, even by fighting the new Lord of Magic and the rest of the other forces of evil as well. On the 15th of March, Hunk Starwood completely met up with the Universal Heroes throughout the central headquarters of the asteroid base and told Grayson Ferris Unity that their mission of the new alliance has managed to take off a new cleaning slate in saving other worlds and planets and everything else, and that restoring peace and balance to the sacred world and to the rest of sacred existence has managed to pay off in many, many ways it could possibly. Grayson Ferris exactly told Hunk Starwood that he's very grateful for the Four Nation Hunters' help and assistance, and meaning they could keep doing so in every way they can in order to restore peace and balance to the sacred world. And he gladly shook hands with Hunk Starwood, said to him that their partnership still remains the same, and that they are a family of superheroes, and that they will remain so by all times and by any means necessary as well. On the 29th of March, the Four Nation Hunters entered the cities where they were able to fighting up against a rogue group of dark monsters that appeared from the dark dimension, and they were able to mysteriously vanquish them. They were able to mysteriously vanquish them and able to begin fighting them in full secrecy, where the battle between good and evil waged on, and the monsters lost the battle as they were completely vanquished and banished back towards the dark dimension as well. On the 10th of April, Ivy Ferris Hellfire discovered that the monsters are entering through another portal, and monsters are entering through another portal from the other worlds and the other worlds and planets. And she told Hunk Starwood that the Four Nation Hunters need to go from the other side of the sacred world in order to saving those worlds and planets before they're completely ravished and destroyed by the monsters of the dark dimension. And Hunk Starwood completely agreed that that is all that matters, and that is what they're specifically able to do. Which he told Baal that he needs the help of the warlocks and of the fairies and of the witches and of the good witches and of the good druids in order for them to join forces by any means necessary for this confrontation before it completely takes place. On the 14th of April, on the 14th of April, on the 14th of April, the Four Nation Hunters and the rest of the magical creatures united in order to fight a wave of powerful monsters of the dark dimension who appeared from a portal, who appeared from a very, very giant dark magical portal that was being summoned by an unknown force of evil. The battle waged on as it was a confrontation of the Four Nation Hunters with the monsters of the dark dimension of good and evil, waged on and on and on in battle, and it lasted for days and for 2 months until the 20th of May, where the Four Nation Hunters were completely victorious. Hunk Starwood told the aliens the inhabitants of the civilization, that they'll have to do everything they can in their power and their ability to restore peace and balance to the sacred world and to the known worlds of the sacred universe, meaning that they'll do utmost everything they can, but they need all the resources and all the power in order to stopping these dangerous threats and these forces of evil from creating chaos and mass panic towards the sacred world and towards the sacred world and to the rest of sacred existence. And the inhabitants completely agreed that their resources are for the Four Nation Hunters and for the new alliance to utilize whenever best possible way they can exactly seem fit. On the 29th of May, Hunk Starwood and Baal completely celebrated in their new hotel room in their own room about their love and about their love and the inspiration towards the communities and to their people, stated that they are doing a very remarkable difference, that they're making a remarkable difference towards the sacred world and towards the sacred world and towards the known worlds of the sacred universe, meaning in other words it can continue to blossom by any means, and that they'll continue to fighting up against the forces of evil by at all cost as well. On the 15th of June, an evil group of powerful dark warlocks began a very powerful ancient incantation in order to summon the monsters of the dark dimension from an ancient dark world, which the Four Nation Hunters were forced to fight up against these evil dark magic users. The battle waged on and on and on and on until the 29th of June, where the Four Nation Hunters remained victorious. The other Four Nation Hunters reported back to their central headquarters to Hunk Starwood, telling him that the evil warlocks were quietly sent by a powerful dark witch known as Witchcaster, who is gratefully at large and who is still unknown, who still operates with an unknown whereabout, and she still poses a threat to the rest of the sacred world and to the rest of the sacred universe. Hunk Starwood exactly told the Four Nation Hunters that it's time for them to pick up the pace and put up the wanted posters on every sacred criminal and every sacred criminal threat or being or supervillain in order for them to be found and in order for them to be founded and to be captured alive at all cost throughout the known universe and throughout the known worlds and throughout the rest of sacred existence. They must be captured alive and they must be brought straightly into custody and sentenced into the astral prison to remain in custody for their crimes against the rest of the sacred world and against the rest of the sacred world and against the rest of humanity as well. On the 12th of July, Hunk Starwood completely met up with Vogel throughout the Sacred Hall of the Four Nation Hunter history, where they'll be able to talk about the ancient times and the old ways, stated that all of this chaos and all of this destruction could have been heavily avoided. And Hank Starwood completely agreed with Vogel Smith that all of this chaos and destruction could be heavily be avoided, but unfortunately it wasn't completely avoided when it was created by the original Lord of Magic and his forces of evil who wanted chaos and destruction upon its wake to be placed upon mankind and to the known universe and to the sacred world and to the rest of sacred existence, meaning that it's the job of the Four Nation Hunters to restoring peace and balance and harmony towards the sacred world and towards the sacred universe and towards the world of men, which they've been charged to do at all cost. And Vogelsmith Starwood completely agreed that that is exactly what they're willing to do by any means necessary as well. On the 20th of July, Hank Starwood completely explained everything to the Four Nation Hunters that they're completely at war with the forces of evil and that it's a job and mission to protecting mankind and the rest of humanity from the dangerous, powerful rogue threats, meaning taking down the Shadow Empire warlords is the first priority of the Four Nation Hunters and vanquishing the monsters of the Dark Dimension and fighting powerful, dark, evil warlords, warlocks, witches, druids, and criminal and powerful criminals and supervillains is their highest priority to protecting mankind and the rest of humanity in the process. And it is their job to find these criminals and to stop them before their plans can successfully bear fruit as well. On the 15th of August, the Four Nation Hunters met up with the Universal Heroes at the central headquarters of the asteroid base, where Universal Man, the new Universal Man, told Hank Starwood that the Four Nation Hunters have been doing a great job and that it's time for them to share their resources all together and utilizing them all together with the Intergalactic Coalition for them to make a positive difference. And he completely agreed with that as well. On the 29th of August and 29th of August, the Four Nation Hunters battle a crew of evil warlocks, of evil dark magic users of warlocks who are about to besiege the entire ancient magical world, an entire ancient magical world that is filled with beautiful warlocks and fairies and beautiful warlocks and light druids and light magic users, and they were able to save them due to the intervention of the Universal Magic Heroes and Universal Magical, who was able to use her, more able to use their magical powers for the greater good in order to fight against the forces, and the heroes remain victorious as well. On the 15th of September, Hank Starwood completely convened with the members of the Universal Heroes on the asteroid base, on the central headquarters of the asteroid base, and told them that everything else is beginning to take out, has beginning to reach a boiling massive point throughout the battlefield, and that the forces of evil are secretly convening with one another, and that it's creating chaos and destruction upon its wake. Grayson exactly agreed with Hank Starwood that everything else they've been doing now has created nothing but chaos and destruction in its wake, and it's their job to avoid that, and it's their job for them to utilize their resources in every possible way to stopping these forces of evil before they can create outer chaos and outer destruction towards the sacred world and towards the sacred universe at all costs as well. On the 29th of September, Hank Starwood and Bayao completely agreed that it's time for them to begin making a full preparation of the meeting of their people and of their kinds in order for the coexistence of their world to live in harmony together as one. On the 15th of October, Hank Starwood held up a sacred cabinet meeting with the representative of the supernaturals, aliens, superhumans, and Four Nation Hunters all together in one in order for them to discuss their plans, in order for them to discuss their future plans for the sacred world and for the communities that live there as well. Hank Starwood completely reassured the beings and the creatures that his best interest is for these creatures to coexist all together and is to live in harmony and is for them to fight together as one, against their common enemy, foe, and adversaries who dare threaten the peace of the sacred world and the rest of sacred existence. They all began to agree and they all began to disagree, which Hank Starwood began to see that the rift has been already created and that he's willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that the peace between the supernatural community and the alien community and the superhuman community and the Four Nation Hunter communities continues to remain intact and is enabling them for all of them to coexist all in one. On the 28th of October, Hank Starwood completely met up with Bayao and told him that the meeting between the people and their kind is quietly taking up a bad turn. Bayao told Hank Starwood never to give up no matter what, that it's their job to fight for the greater good, and that they cannot never give up no matter what, or to surrender to the force of evil, that there's so much more that they're willing to give to the sacred world and to the rest of sacred existence, and it's their job to protect their people from the threats that are willing to threaten the peace of the sacred world and the harmony of the sacred universe, and that it's their destiny to make sure that that peace is protected and well kept safe, no matter what. On the 15th of November, a group of powerful dark magic users known as the Seconds begin destroying and attacking and besieging the whole base, the whole intergalactic coalition, the whole intergalactic coalition space, the intergalactic coalition of the Four Nation Hunters space with a dark magic in order to wipe them out and annihilate them. Hank Starwood and the rest of the Four Nation Hunters were forced to take action as the Universal Founders and the Universal Space Heroes and the Universal Magic Heroes and Universal Magic Girl were forced to take action in Shinibin. They battled against the dark, powerful, formidable magic users and continued to fight up against them, saving the lives of the elderly Four Nation Hunters in the process and their allies as well. The battle lasted as both sides suffered enormous amounts of casualties from good and evil. The dark magic users were all decimated and vanquished, and the Four Nation Hunters lost one of their kind and one of their people throughout the battle as well. On the 29th of November, the Four Nation Hunter elders and leaders met up with Hank Starwood on their homeland known as Four Nation Hunter City, where they were able to agree that the forces of evil are starting to begin secretly to organize powerful attacks and everything else. Meaning, in other words, that these threats are secretly colluding with one another, or they're secretly sharing information with one another. Despite that, the forces of evil are highly creating advanced techniques, highly beginning advanced techniques in order to wipe out and destroy the Four Nation Hunter and the Intergalactic Coalition. Meaning, in other words, they have to do the same in order to take out their greatest enemy and their greatest foe. Hank Starwood completely agreed that now is the time to take action by any means necessary. On the 14th of December, the Four Nation Hunters and the rest of the other Four Nation Hunter elders and leaders began exposing a spy and a traitor of their cause and one of their people, straightly telling them that they made a big mistake in exposing all their plans and all their secrecy to one of their own, and that one of them is a traitor, and that they have to be completely stopped by any means necessary as well. Meaning, in other words, their operation can remain full secrecy, that realizing that they've stopped the greatest threats and that their plans cannot proceed according to plan. On the 29th of December, Hank Starwood met up with Grayson Ferris Unity and told them that everything else is quietly safe and that the movements of their plan and the cause of their plan can frequently proceed according to plan. Grayson Ferris Unity shaked hands with Hank Starwood and told him that the Universal Heroes are always members of the Alliance. And Hank Starwood told Grayson Ferris Unity that he is always a member of the new Alliance and that he's like a brother to him as well. And that no matter what, they're in this together by any means necessary. On the 9th of January, Hank Starwood and Bayao began celebrating their love and everything else all together, said to them that they can make a positive difference towards their worlds and towards their people, making sure that the sacred world is in a better place, not in the darkest place, and meaning they can still win the war and they can still remain victorious. And to do that, and by any means necessary, Hank Starwood was quietly reassured Bayao that's exactly what the new alliance is all about, for positive difference and new inspiration towards their people and towards their kind. And that's exactly what he can do. Despite this, guys, Hank Starwood is very trained in hand-to-hand combat, swordsmanship, hand-to-hand combat, agility, endurance, super living, super hearing, super speed, regenerative healing, and also the sight to see in a faraway distance, and also the sight to see faraway distance, and also invisibility. He has an exceptional different abilities from other Four Nation Hunters, which makes him a greater. He's a fearless, devoted leader of the new alliance, and he decides to use the resources of the Four Nation Hunters in order to protecting humanity and the sacred world from all threats that are willing to destroy it and create utter chaos. Despite this, Hank Starwood loves his family and his sister and his brother and his little brother, known as Charlie Starwood and Sam Starwood, and also Valville Smith, and also his parents as well, willing to do whatever it takes to make sure that the Starwood name is remembered as a Four Nation Hunter superhero name that is meant to do good, not to do bad or destructive things ever before. Despite this, Hank Starwood views the Universal heroes as brothers and sisters in arms and is willing to join forces with them because they share the common goal. He is very skilled, very intelligent Four Nation Hunter, very persistent, and very determined to restoring sacred peace and balance, and harmony to the sacred world and to the sacred universe and to the communities of the sacred world known as the supernaturals, aliens, superhumans, and the Four Nation Hunters that is able to begin to creating a massive rift towards the communities, towards the communities of their kind, which has managed to factor in, allowing the forces of evil to take full advantage of that. Despite this, Hank Starwood is the founder and leader of the New Alliance, which he decided to use it as a force for good in order to restore peace and balance to the sacred world and to the rest of humanity. He is so devoted and so good, willing, and very kind and very honorable Four Nation Hunter, and very loving and kind-hearted, stubborn, and very, very fearless, and very, very, very determined to restoring peace, harmony, and balance towards the supernaturals, aliens, superhumans, warlocks, witches, druids, alien creatures, and alien warlords and commanders, and the Four Nation Hunters, and werewolves and vampires, and other superhumans as well in the process, because he believes they can all coexist together to fighting their greatest enemy and their new foe. Despite this, Hank Starwood realizes that the cosmic balance of power has shifted and is willing to do whatever it takes to protecting the sacred world and mankind from the threats that are willing to conquer and rule it, especially from the secretive ancient organization such as the Court of Nature, the Founders, Order of the Five, Order of the Six, Order of the Seven, Order of the Five, Order of the Six, Order of the Seven, and Order of the Four, Unholy Alliance, Sacred Five, Unholy Alliance, Sacred Five, and the Galactic as well. From these ancient groups of supervillains that has existed for many centuries, and the Order of Power and the Order of Death as well, which these ancient groups of supervillains have existed for centuries and for many millennia. Hank Starwood understands the gravity and the balance of good and evil that are completely at war against each other, and is willing to stop these threats before they can rule and conquer, and before their plans can successfully bear fruit in their full conquest to conquering the rest of the sacred world and the rest of the inhabitants that live there by any means necessary. Well, guys, that's it for today's episode. I all hope you have a wonderful, great day and a very, very blessed day indeed. Take care of yourself, and I appreciate your support. Like and subscribe, and have a wonderful, blessed day, and I'll see you tomorrow as well. God bless you all. Love you, and take care. Bye.